Oh, hello, yeah. Well, it has become autumn. I think it's official. Yeah, not that official. It's sort of the unofficial autumn. You know, when it gets to, well, like this, I suppose. Anyway, at the weekend I was thinking about Joe 90. Yeah, as you do, you know. Um, well, not the most popular of the Super Marionation series that the Andersons brought out, and realistically, there was a particular reason for that because the lead in Joe 90, if you can call it that, because after all, it's a puppet, might be a metaphor there, we never know. Anyway, yeah, was a 9-year-old boy with glasses and freckles, and even if you are a 9-year-old boy with glasses and freckles, you don't really want to identify with a 9-year-old boy who's got glasses and freckles, even when they've, got a gun, dressed up like a member of, well, probably Reform there, yeah. Anyway, which leads me, perhaps less than inevitably, onto this particular article that was in the Telegraph yesterday, which was another one of those. Well, we do really, 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 really hope that young people will stop voting left wing. If they don't, we'll have to take other measures. But we had this. Britain's white working class young men are flocking to reform. Nigel Farage is winning over the UK's left behind male youth. It could bring him victory. Yes, indeed. And you can see there's some hip happening and definitely not Joe 90 kids there. Yeah. It actually does say in the small print, the votes of the under 30s may be ripe for picking by reform. Yes. But there's a basic problem, of course, with reform and the young people. And this article, you can read it if you can get past the paywall, does lay it out very, very neatly in the sense that, no, they're not flocking to reform. The numbers just don't properly add up. And yes, you can talk about young men who may well, lots of them, lean right wing, but women certainly don't. And, if we do look at your archetypal group of reform young people, we do end up, once again, with this lot, courtesy of, lovely Darren Grimes as well in there in the middle. Now, I'm sure that your average sort of public school Oxbridge PPE type that writes for the Daily Telegraph thinks that all young people actually do or should look like this. And again, we might come back to that as a particular concept. But let's face it, if you're 14 or 16 or 18 or 20 or 22, you don't want to hang out with these kids, do you? They're not the popular kids, yeah? Speaking as a teacher, meets, lots of young people. None of the young people I'm currently in contact with would want to have anything to do with this lot. Now, they often are very, very right-wing. Don't get me wrong, I work with a lot of autistic young people, and as I've often said here, they very often are very, 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 for example, homophobic, so they wouldn't want to hang around with Darren. And they just wouldn't be interested in any of this stuff at all. It's Joe 90, it just isn't very sexy at all, is it? No. And you might want young people to be like this, but unfortunately the numbers don't add up. Just don't. Read the article or just look in the YouGov poll. Basically, Reform have taken votes away from young people, away from the Tories, and that's it. There is no surge towards Farage. Yes, he gets loads of views on TikTok, but that's adults looking at him on TikTok. Anyway, which perhaps in many ways brings me to, well, the Million Tommy March, yes. Astounding that all those young people that were out marching around, you can get them out, don't get me wrong, and were cheering on Elon Musk. It made me think about whether or not Jeremy Corbyn will invite, I don't know, say the president of Brazil or maybe Mexico onto a big screen to have a chat with them, and what exactly the reaction would be if one of those two, or indeed someone else, just called, for getting rid of our elected government. Now, I'm not keen on our elected government, but I'm certainly not keen on some autistic billionaire telling me what to do. Automatically gets my hackles. And hackles there were indeed. This kind of thing is seriously bringing out an awful lot of nasty things from the woodwork. And Yesterday in Twitter, I got into a fairly long, deep conversation with a number of people, including Catherine Bersingly, Britain's favourite headmistress. Yes, her. And just want to share this with you because I thought what she put up was really quite astounding. And then when I asked her about it, she decided to double down. But it's worthwhile thinking about this in terms of what young people believe, right? Wokeness teaches young people that leftist views on race, sexuality and religion are what morality is and must be defended. As Arabiani, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, said, by any means necessary. Schools fail daily in teaching basic morality and universal humanity because we immerse children in woke ideology which divides us. He is a product of this. He doesn't understand the sanctity of life and how it debases him to mock Kirk's death, a man he not only knew, but who, unlike him, had enough respect to dress appropriately. See, I told you it was important. God, she's got to be in a bonnet about that. Appropriately for their Oxford Union debate. Appropriately. He showed Kirk the same lack of respect then as he does now. I hang my head in shame as a teacher for my profession. Arabiani has no moral compass, and while he is responsible for himself, we too carry the blame. He is a consequence of the moral degeneracy we have been promoting for decades. Now, for blindingly obvious reasons, that somewhat got my hackles up. Lots of people feel that I as a teacher shouldn't really have political opinions, but, I would actually point you at Catherine Bersingly, who, let's face it, has been a huge and probably towering figure on the right in terms of your archetypal go-to teacher. Don't forget, she rose to fame on the back of Conservative Party conferences, and she was made Britain's social mobility czar. Yeah, I know you'd forgotten that, hadn't you? Yeah. Still, if you read that Daily Telegraph article, it does actually go into lots and lots of the problems that are facing young people. But here's Catherine suggesting that basically the big problem is that people like me are moral degenerates and we're letting the kids down. Somebody who was actually proactively working in government. Anyway, just to move on slightly, I did say to her, who has taught all those young people who come to your comments and post racist comments about your students? Yeah, because over the summer when she posted up people's GCSE and A-level results, there were lots of people in the comments that really didn't like the skin colour of her students, and she was rather upset about that. I wonder what their teachers taught them. Or was it moral degeneracy? We'll come on to that. To accuse the majority of teachers, a higher proportion of whom are religious than the general population, because there's an awful lot of Christian teachers. Trust me, you'll meet a lot of them. There's also quite a lot of Muslim teachers. Trust me, if you work in the profession, you'll understand what that means. An awful lot of born-again Christians in teaching is an astonishing claim. Maybe stick to pedagogy, which is the science of teaching. To which she replied, the majority of those racists are also a result of woke ideology being spread through our schools and our media. Yeah, you see, it's my fault that people are racist as well. Woke culture is responsible for all of it. All of it. Wow. And until we understand this, things are going to get worse and worse. Oh, okay then. So the woman who was, heavily involved in government for a couple of years has no responsibility for what's going on in education, whereas someone like me, who's just a jobbing teacher, apparently I have to put all this stuff onto my shoulders as a moral degenerate. Now, you might dislike my political views on here, but I think it'd have to be hard pushed to suggest that I was immoral, wouldn't you? Well, no, obviously not. If you don't like my political views, it's fine, isn't it? Yeah. But no, I don't know. Anyway, there's a link down below. You can have a look at the comments of people in and around her statements. But I can't believe that nobody basically just tackles her on this stuff. Moral degeneracy, for God's sake. Is this really where we are now? Now, you might think that we need to, make big changes in education so that people dress appropriately for Oxford Union debates. Well, possibly. I guess they could put on a blazer and a tie, but, they don't want to do that because it's a bit uncool. It's that Joe 90 thing, isn't it? Yeah. But why should they? Yeah, the bloke who was debating her at the Oxford Union debate is an adult. Yeah. That's the reason he's there. Yeah, doing degree, etc. He was voted into that position. Other young people agree with him. Now, you might not like what he had to say, or indeed what he looks like, but that's neither here nor there, is it? Is it? He's entitled to those opinions. He's entitled to those opinions. And you can decide, oh, we need to get rid of these people. Well, okay then. But who's making these arbitrary decisions? And think about the criteria of being woke. Yeah? Well, who's woke? I'm woke. Yeah, I fully appreciate that. But is Ed Davey woke? Yeah? Are, all of those right-wing conservatives that Catherine was involved with, like Michael Gove, is he woke? Where does that end? Well, the answer is, we don't really care. We just want to get rid of, the idea that anybody ever will be exposed to something that we don't really want to deal with. And you come down on that level to a whole bunch of adults that feel that they need to be protected from things. It's not that I'm a danger to children, it's that I'm a danger to them. Because it's problematic, yeah? I live in a problematized world where things are not simple, and they don't want that. They want to live in a world which is nice and safe and cosy when there aren't any problematic trans people or brown people or feminists or communists or anybody that might, do things differently. Meanwhile, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And again, like the Daily Telegraph article suggests, young people are faced with enormously difficult pressures. And people like Catherine have no answer to it at all, other than someone like me who does my goddamn best on a daily basis for my often very troubled students, are somehow at the root of the problem. Yes, get rid of me and it'll solve the housing crisis, yeah? Stop all those people voting for presidents of unions at Oxford, and everybody will be on a full-time permanent contract with a very, very good pension. Yes, of course. Simple solutions for the simple-minded, but also for the narcissists that effectively quake in their boots at the concept that they might have to think about things, and that if they think about things they might discover that the world isn't as simple as they want it to be. And there's nothing more terrifying than having to change your mind as an adult, is there? Anyway, do have a glorious day. Remember, don't be Joe 90. Enjoy.